I'm seeing a lot of occult, a lot of witchcraft, even students with pentagrams on their book bags. I'm seeing that all over the state. I've heard about that when I was campaigning, but then I'm still seeing that, the furry movement with the kids dressing up as other animals and identifying as an animal instead of as a human. It's paving the way for bestiality. Well,
Whoa, okay, that took a sharp right turn. First of all, people identifying as animals is completely made up. This is something called Otherkin, and it's a 4chan meme. It was made up intentionally to make fun of people on the left. It's not real. People don't do this. Or if they do it, then they're copying 4chan. This isn't something that trans people do or people on the left or any of that nonsense. And it's not opening anything up to anything. People just want to be free. That's all they want. People just want to dress in fur costumes because they liked it. Some people like doing that. You know what other people do? You know what some people like dressing up as? They like dressing up as shaman and prancing around the Capitol building in restricted areas. Some people enjoy doing that kind of thing. But you don't hear her criticizing him for that, now do you? This is Jacob Chansley. He was at the Capitol on January 6th, dressed in this getup, running around, rifling through desks, stealing stuff, wreaking havoc, and now he sits in jail. But what does she have to say about all that? Nothing. Radio silence. Surprised? Anyways, all she cares about is the trans community. She cares about destroying them at any cost. And apparently she categorizes furries in with the trans community. Like, who cares? Let people be who they are. What is her obsession with attacking other people? Anyway, this is Candace Taylor. I don't know if I mentioned. This is Candace Taylor. She is, or was, I'm sorry, she was a gubernatorial candidate for Georgia back in 2022, I think, or maybe 2020. I don't remember which one. She lost. She got like 6% of the vote or some other thing. Embarrassing, terribly, but she decided to go on to do what most failed political candidates do, which is become a talk show host or get involved in the political scene by having conferences and Zoom calls and stuff like that with other nutter butters of varying quality. This one is Julie Green on the right. But yeah, these two people are absolutely unhinged from reality, both of them.
Paving the way for bestiality. Well, I've overeaten. So talk about gluttony, because I've overeaten and it's a sin.
I wasn't actually going to say that. I mean, you're kind of drawing that attention onto yourself. I don't really care. You know why? Because of personal freedom. You're perfectly free to do whatever the f*** you want, and I'm not going to step in your way. Go nuts.
Okay, so if you're doing things that are a sin, if you've had premarital sex, or if you have had thoughts of homosexuality, or whatever you've had, we've all struggled with sin. We've noticed more.
Look at this dude in the middle. Mike Lindell sitting here hugging a pillow the whole time. Anyways, God, these people are something else. The reason I bring this up is because I got a voicemail about it recently. Listen to what my caller had to say here.
Hey, Owen, I'm watching your Candace Taylor, the Georgia one, the Georgia primary that she got primaried out with
yeah, she was a gubernatorial candidate and she lost the primary against Brian Kemp. I think the election was in 2022, but her primary took place in May 2022. That's what it was. She lost in like April or May or something like that.
She's talking about furries. But, she mentions that she's sinned by overeating. But, see, she's made up for it because she's got on the side of her truck, okay, Jesus first, of course, and she's smart enough to put guns before babies because...
No joke. This is really her campaign bus. Seriously. This is Candace Taylor's campaign bus. And her slogan, Jesus, guns, babies. That is just some right there.
Put guns before babies because, of course, guns are more important than babies. So she has unsinned herself, so she's okay. Because, of course, guns are more important than babies, which is proved in this country how many times kids get shot in schools, but we keep the guns going. So she's...
That's a fair point. Absolutely.
Going, so she's good. Jesus, guns, babies. As long as she keeps those priorities in that exact order, she'll be okay.
That's pretty funny, actually. I like that. That was really good. Yeah, I appreciate the phone call. I get a lot of phone calls from the guy, and he's really interesting. I can't play every one of them. There were a couple I wanted to play tonight, but, limited to a single voicemail from any given person per night. So anyway, yeah, thank you for the voicemails.
Hi, Owen. My name's Jessie. I'm in Colorado. Really enjoy your show. Thank you for doing what you do. I'm looking at buying a house here in the next couple weeks, and it's directly across from a Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall. I'm a gender non-conforming gay woman, and I was just wondering if you thought that was going to be, like, safe. I'd appreciate an answer. Thanks so much. Bye.
Well, you're perfectly free to identify yourself any way you want, but I'm wondering why you identified as gender non-conforming woman. I would have thought you would have just left it at gender non-conforming. I'm wondering if there was a reason for that. I don't know, just wondering. Just leave another voicemail if you have an answer. It's just sheer curiosity. Anyways, yeah, you don't have anything to worry about. Not with Jehovah's Witnesses. I define the word radical as somebody that is completely outside acceptable political discourse in a country or in a political district or whatever. So, for example, a communist I would consider a communist to be a radical because it's outside the Overton window. Not that I think it's a bad thing necessarily. I'm not a communist. I don't think communism is right, but I think I would classify it as radical just by the nature of being outside the political spectrum of acceptable discourse. An extremist is somebody that is willing to take violent action to accomplish their goals, I would say. Jehovah's Witnesses aren't really extremists in the sense that they're willing to take violent action against anybody. They're pacifists. They don't believe in violence under any circumstances, basically, with very few exceptions. So you have nothing to worry about. They're just going to mind their own business, I'd be willing to bet. I mean, I have a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses that watch this channel, so if any other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses have any advice in the comments, please put it down below so that you can, so that the voicemail caller can see what you have to say about it. But I think you're fine. I think you're going to be just fine. I would call Jehovah's Witnesses radicals, not extremists, I would say, just by the simple fact that they're pacifists. Somebody in the chat says, as someone to the left of liberals, I guess I'm radical. Radical doesn't necessarily mean radical isn't necessarily bad in my opinion. Abolitionists, like slavery abolitionists, were radical in their day. That's okay. There's some bad radicalism and some good radicalism. It's just being outside of standard, regular, traditional political discussion. And QAnons are radicals. They're nutcases. Jehovah's Witnesses are radicals. Socialists are probably radicals too, but it's not bad in their cases. So anyway, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think of that.
Hi, Owen. I'm Liv from Minnesota, and why do Christians think that we have free will, but then, yell at people or tell people that they're wrong for acting upon their free will, even though they say themselves that God gives people free will to sin? I don't know. I just find that weird. Hope you have a great day.
It's a really interesting hole you've found to poke. The answer is they're not actually in favor of free will. They don't actually believe in free will or any of that stuff. And FYI, free will is a religious concept, not a scientific concept anyways. The concept of free will is only ever brought up in religion, or specifically in Christianity, when they need an excuse for why God isn't just revealing himself to everybody. Like, why doesn't he just come out and say, hey, speaking to everyone's mind at the same time, hey guys, I'm real. I'm here. It's me. I'm Yahweh. I sent Jesus to earth to fix everything. This is the right denomination. That's the wrong denomination. Why doesn't he just do that? That would simplify everything. There is no good answer to that. So a lot of more radical Christians or more extremist Christians have come up with the idea of saying God has to respect people's free will. He can't force anybody to do anything. What? Of course he can. He's forced people to do stuff constantly throughout the Bible. It's all complete nonsense, all of it, beginning to end. And the only way that it works is if free will is a factor here. But as you can see, there are so many more problems that come along with the idea of free will. It's like they have these ideas over here and these ideas over there. Like there are holes all over the place. And they keep patching those holes, here and there and there and there. But none of the solutions that they offer give a cohesive, overarching picture that can fit together. Like they're all kind of self-contradictory. It's the same problem with the flat earth ideas. Flat earthers can come up with problems and solutions that kind of fit those very specific situations, but they're not cohesive with each other. Like they don't merge with each other. They conflict constantly. And that's the exact problem that you've found with the whole free will thing.
Hey, Owen, it's Eric from Oregon. I've noticed whenever they interview someone for the Supreme Court justice or whatever, they always ask them how much of a role God plays in their ability to come to a decision. In my opinion, the only acceptable answer is none. With that in mind, what do you think are the most efficient steps that should be taken in order to separate religion from politics? And do you think if the separation was successful, that it would make a tremendous improvement that would trickle down to other systemically problematic areas? Or do you view it as a standalone issue within politics?
Interesting question. Well, the thing is, the United States was founded as a secular country in the first place. If the laws that we have on the books to keep this a secular nation were actually being respected, I think we'd be okay. Unfortunately, they're not. Unfortunately, people like Robert Jeffress, Kenneth Copeland, Robin Bullock, all these televangelists set out to tread on them, to wreck the rules that are in place. And we have congressmen who are actually taking cues from and listening to the advice of televangelists. It is effectively a theocracy when religious leaders are writing the laws for us, which is what's happening in some situations, in some circumstances. It's not a theocracy. Like, we don't live in a theocracy right now. It's still a democracy, and it could conceivably come back. But when televangelists and religious leaders are writing the laws, it's a big problem. If the laws we have on the books about religion were respected, organizations have to pay taxes if they endorse if they endorse political candidates, or if they bring up political topics. That's one that we could add to the list that isn't on there currently. They lose tax-exempt status. I would love to see that done. No endorsement of any one specific religion by any government employees while they're on the clock. So teachers cannot endorse or support any specific religion over another. Keep religion off the lips of congressmen. I'm okay with them being pastors. That's fine with me. Raphael Warnock is a pastor. I believe he is a competent congressman. He's a senator. I believe he's a competent senator. Well, I guess senators are congressmen too, technically. And the reason is because he doesn't go out there talking about how his religious beliefs influence the bills that he passes. He doesn't let religious leaders or religious think tanks hand him bills that he's supposed to sign off on. He's not taking cues from religious leaders. If these laws were respected, the ones that are on the books now, or prosecuted in cases where they were trampled all over, we would be fine. It's just the people in positions of power that are expected to prosecute this stuff are also religious nutcases. We have to change the culture to fix this problem. Is it fixable? Maybe. I don't think this country's completely lost to Christian nationalism. I think it's conceivable that we could bring it back. But on that note, I do have to say we are in a much better position now than we've ever been in a lot of ways in this country. In World War I and World War II, you were thrown in prison for protesting wars, in some cases, in the United States. The Vietnam War was one of the first major wars that we took part in where people were not jailed en masse for protesting it in some ways. And now I feel perfectly free to say I don't want to go to war. I think war is bad. The Afghanistan war is bad. The Iraq war was bad. The Vietnam War was bad. Like, you can say this stuff freely without worrying that you're going to be censored. So that's one of the major benefits of free speech and how far we've come. We've come a long way from where we once were in this country. You could be jailed for being accused of being communist. You could be burned at the stake for being a witch. You know, we've come a long way. The right, the political right, is trying to claw us back, but I don't think it's going to happen. We just have to keep fighting this everywhere we see it. That's all. Anyway, thank you for the voicemails, guys. I appreciate that. Fun fact, never turn your back on a tiger. They're ambush predators, and seeing a back triggers their hunting instincts. Oh, that's scary. Yeah, I actually weirdly read all about what to do if you encounter a bear this morning. I read about that. In New York, I live in New York City, and I read about this. If it's brown, lay down. If it's black, fight back. That's the answer. If it's a brown bear, it's probably a grizzly or a brown bear and is very tall, most likely, and has a shoulder hump. Probably 6 feet tall. If so, it's not looking at you as prey. It's looking at you as a danger to its cubs, and you need to lay down and play dead. Get in the fetal position to protect your organs, and put your hands behind your head and your elbows over your face like this to protect your eyes and your neck so it doesn't bite at you or whatever. And put your legs up by your stomach to protect it from, and pretend you're dead. As soon as it thinks you're dead, it'll walk away, but it might stick around for 20 minutes or so to see if you get up. So lay there for 20 minutes or so after it leaves. Pick up every bit of trash that you are using. Don't leave anything, even biodegradable stuff like banana peels. Leave nothing if you're in bear country. If it's a if it's a black bear, they're usually a little smaller, about 4 feet tall. They don't have a hump on their back, and they can be golden brown or black colored. You need to fight it. Actually, take a weapon and hit it. Stick, a rock, anything. Punch it in the face if possible. Do not climb a tree. Do not run under any circumstances. They are faster than you, and they climb better than you. So that's how you fight a bear, just if you were wondering. I doubt anybody will ever need that information. There's a total of 1 death from bear attack per year, but I thought it was interesting. For those of you who don't know, I was in a de facto plane crash. It didn't actually crash, but it was an emergency landing. One of the scariest experiences of my life. I had to face death directly, head on. I got footage of it. It's like 1 minute and 38 seconds long.
Heads down, stay down. Heads down, stay down.
This is actually causing stress in me to hear it again. That's how low we were flying for about 45 minutes before we landed. We were pretty close to the ground. I thought we were about to land in a cornfield. This is how low we would have been in the last 3 minutes of a flight normally.
Heads down, stay down. Heads down, stay down. Heads down, stay down. Heads down, stay down.
I didn't start recording until 30 minutes later because they announced about 45 minutes before we landed. They said, we're preparing for an emergency landing. You need to be in the brace position. And then they came through, checked all of our seatbelts. And then 10 minutes before the plane landed, that's when they said, we're preparing for the landing. Get your heads down.
Heads down, stay down. Heads down, stay down. Heads down, stay down. Heads down, stay down. Heads down, stay down. Heads down, stay down. Heads down, stay down. Heads down, stay down until we come to a complete stop. Heads down, stay down. 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 Thank you.
It's not our day, I told you, brother.
Yes.
It's not our day.
Guy said it's not our day. Everybody was convinced that we were going to die. Everybody.
Christmas miracle.
We all sweating. Yeah, no problem. Heck yeah, I told you it's not our day. You're gonna keep living, brother.
So I was pretty convinced that this is what was going to happen right here when they told us that the plane was about to go down. I was convinced that's what was going to happen. It was an incredibly, disturbingly scary experience. Anyway, it was really scary stuff. And yeah, that plane that we just saw fall, that was the result of, it was a cargo plane, and it was carrying, I think, 12 2-ton vehicles or something, and one of them was not strapped down properly, and it flew to the back when the plane took off and ran right into the rear flight controls, I think, and the plane just lost control completely and just went down just like that. I was very sure that that's what was going to happen to me. And yeah, it was deeply disturbing, scary stuff. Curious what airline I was on. American Airlines, I think. American Airlines. Yeah, I think it was American. I fly different airlines because I use like Expedia, so they gave me like American on the way there, Delta on the way back. I think it was American. Chandler Slesiak, I'm glad that you were safe and made it out alive. Me too. It was genuinely, seriously scary stuff. I had a terminal illness when I was in my 20s. I survived it. I had a 40% chance of survival, which is good, but when you hear 40% chance of survival, you assume 0% chance of survival. And looking death in the face like that scarred me at the time. I feel like I'd just gotten over that. And here I am again, looking death in the face all over again. It's pretty scary stuff, man. People like Robert Jeffress and, anybody on the right, they're always in favor of traditional values. By definition, seemingly, right? Like, that's the idea behind being a Republican. They're in favor of traditional values. And that means going backwards. They want to go backwards. They want to bring us back to a time when things were better. When were things better? When is that time? You got me. I guess before 1965, during the Civil Rights era, before the 70s when women were not allowed to have credit cards. When? When was it better? In the 20s when women were not even allowed to vote yet? I think that's when women gained the right to vote, isn't it? In the 1920s? When was it better? Before slavery? Tell me. Give me a year. A specific year that you want to go back to. When were values better? It's just absurd from top to bottom. All of these people are absolutely absurd. The thing is, every generation that's born is more progressive than the last. They want more social victories than the one before them. People in the 1950s, or people who were adults in the 1950s, were happy with the way things were at that moment, pretty much. People in the 1960s wanted a change. They wanted to desegregate society. They wanted blacks and whites only water fountains to disappear, and they succeeded in that. And the people that were happy with things in the 50s lost their minds. They were not happy about that. Some time goes by, women gain the right to have a credit card and rent a house on their own and be in the workforce. People weren't happy about that when it happened either. Every successive generation is better than the last. It's more progressive, more accepting than the previous one. And as a result, the previous generation, who lived in an era before these things were even an option, lose their collective minds over it. They get really upset when they find out that black people are allowed to drink from the same water fountain or swim in the same pool. I mean, look at Mr. Rogers. He famously did an episode where he dipped his feet in an inflatable swimming pool with the black mailman, and it was like a massive thing at the time. Every successive generation gets more progressive. It may feel bleak sometimes. It's really not as bleak as it feels. Every generation is better than the last. In 50 years, the things that you and I believe are going to be viewed as absolutely evil and disgusting. What will those things be, I wonder? I know at the very least, when I was younger, I called my dad handicapped because he was in a car accident and he was handicapped. I know at the very least that word is on its way to being deprecated, to being considered offensive. The word is disabled, not handicapped. But, it wasn't then. It wasn't disabled when I was little. It was handicapped. That's the word you used. So that's one example of the euphemism treadmill. Words get deprecated and more offensive as time goes on and fall out of favor, and you get new replacement words. That's just how it works. Boomers get all up in arms over this stuff. A little toasty up in this piece. New York City's heating system works very differently because a lot of the buildings in New York City are like over 100 years old. So this is before central heating and air existed, when a lot of them were built. Now, the one I'm in was built in 1980 or something, but it used the same basic plans for like heating and cooling as they did back then. New York City buildings all generally they have pipes that go up through all the way from the bottom floor to the ceiling. And those pipes are connected to steam radiators. They basically heat steam with natural gas, and the steam goes all the way through the pipes and into radiators in every single apartment and all the way up the pipes. And you can either turn the radiator on or off. There is no heat setting. So they'll heat the radiators up. And in every apartment I've lived in New York City so far, they've kept the radiators so hot. It's like 90 degrees in the house when it's 20 degrees outside. You have to open the windows and stuff. Of course, it was built that way intentionally because a lot of them were built during the Spanish flu. And the reason it was built that way during the Spanish flu is so that people could open their windows and get fresh air and still be warm. So, anyways, yeah, kind of interesting. That means it's really hot in every apartment in New York City all winter, basically. And you have to turn your air conditioner on a lot of the time or open your window. So, I opened my window.